Hey Christchurch, welcome back again to the Christchurch Kids Parenting Blog. It's been, I don't know, over a month now since I've done a video. I've been on vacation and away, and I'm just getting back into it. And I want to pick up where I left off. We've been talking about the doctrine of creation. What does creation teach us about parenting? And one of the things we see in creation is that people were made in the image of God, and that when God created man in his image, he made them male and female. And so there was a distinction between boys and girls, and I want to I'm going to do one video on boys and girls, just a little bit about some of the distinctive things that make a boy and a girl, and how they bear God's image as a boy and a girl. And the first thing to say, of course, is that there are many things in scriptures that apply to men and women, boys and girls, across the board of the ways that we're called to love people, to be joyful, to be peacemakers, to be humble, to confess our sin, to serve others. And in many ways, there are many things that we share in our humanity and share as Christians, as men and women. And yet, some of those things about how to love people are distinctive for boys and girls. And so I want to highlight a few of these things. And what I mentioned last time is that my thesis was that the distinctive of what it means to me a man, what a man is called to do with his life, is to die for others. That's what he's called, is to give his life away, to spend his life for others. And of course, we see that in the beginning of Genesis, that when God makes a wife for Adam, in order for her to have life, God cuts open his side, and there's this kind of surgery that happens. He takes out a rib, and he falls into this deep sleep. It's almost like he undergoes this death in order so his bride may come out and have life. And of course, that's a picture of the gospel for us, that Jesus then dies for the church, that the church, his bride, would be given life and communion with God. And so both of these things are paradigm for our boys as we raise our boys, that they would understand themselves, their calling to give their life away, to die for others, to sacrifice for others. Sacrificial love is the heart of what it means to be a man. And I want to say that means three things for what boys need to learn as they're growing up. The first is this, is that they are called to use their strength for the good of others. They're called to use their strength for the good of others. There's not a lot in the Bible about what's the difference between men and women. And actually, one of the things that the Bible does say is just kind of brute strength is the difference between men and women. Men, Proverbs says, is the glory of a young man is his strength. And in 1 Peter, it also says that husbands should love their wives and show honor to their wives as unto the weaker vessel, that the wife is a weaker vessel, and that man just has more brute strength than his wife. And so what a boy needs to learn to do is that God has given him his strength, and what is he going to use his strength for? And he's called to use that strength to serve others and to care for others. And in a sense, to fight for others, to defend, to protect. And I am always giving my boys a vision of that they're going to be fathers and husbands one day. They're going to have a family that they're going to care for and protect. And I often talk to my son Will about protecting his sisters and caring for them, and using his strength to take care of them and not to hurt them. And actually, I was just the other day, we were at the park, and Henry was hitting his sister Molly, and I'm pulling him aside, and we're having a little chat about that, which boy hitting a girl is pretty much a capital offense in our household. But I'm talking to Henry, and I'm saying, Henry, why did God give you muscles? Did he give you your muscles so you could hit Molly? No. Why did he give you muscles? And Henry says, to fight monsters. I was given muscles to fight monsters. And yes, you were given muscles to protect your sister, to take care of her, to use your strength for her good. And in childhood, the issue of protecting and defending the weak, which is a big theme in Scripture, is something that children are going to be faced with all the time. That there are children who are weaker or smaller, kids that are being excluded or outside, And so understanding to use their strength to protect and to defend the weak. And, if you're interested in more reading on being boys, their call to use their strength for others, to fight, to defend, this is a great book that really enjoyed reading right when I was starting to have kids, by Doug Wilson on Future Men. It's a fun read. One other book, this is a book by C.S. Lewis. He's got an essay in here called Chivalry, and which some people might think is kind of dated, that we talk about chivalry in our modern day. But what many of you are going to find is, some of you are going to find that you have kids that are very aggressive, or boys that are very aggressive. They're not afraid to use their bodies, use their muscles. And what those kids need to learn is they need to learn the service part, that they use their muscles, they need to restrain their muscles to serve other people. They need to learn kindness and humility and gentleness, all things that a man is supposed to have. And yet you're going to have other boys who are timid, and they're afraid to use their bodies. And those boys need their parents to push them in order to learn valor and strength and risk, and to throw themselves into the world and to not live in fear. And both of these qualities need to come together, of strength and love, strength and kindness, that come together. And this is what C.S. Lewis says when he's talking about chivalry, that this was actually the whole idea of what chivalry was. The medieval ideal, chivalry, brought together two things which have no natural tendency to gravitate towards one another. These two things of strength and kindness, they don't gravitate towards one another. It brought them together for that very reason. It taught humility and forbearance to the great warrior, because everyone knew by experience how much he usually needed that lesson. It demanded valor of the urbane and modest man, because everyone knew that he was likely as not to be a milksop. And he says, the man who combines both characters of the knight is a work not of nature but of art, of that art which has human beings instead of canvas or marble for its medium. So the first thing of boys learning to die for others is they're learning to use their strength for the good of others. And of course, one of the main ways that this is going to play out in a boy's life as he grows up to be a man is this second thing, is his work ethic, is him learning to be someone who works. And because part of the reason is he has a family and raises children and has a wife, his calling is going to be to care for them, to provide for them, to go out and work hard. And it's not going to be fun, but he's going to use his strength to provide and care for them. And that's going to play out in his work ethic. And of course, Proverbs, as I've mentioned, is a book that's really a book about parenting. If you read the first 9 chapters over and over again, the writer, Solomon, is saying, my son, learn this wisdom from me. My son, learn from me. And these are the instructions of a father teaching his son. And as the first 9 chapters are kind of an introduction. And you come to chapter 10, which is the beginning of the bulk of the book of Proverbs. And it begins with this, the Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son is a sorrow to his mother. And then just a few verses later, immediately, this is what's important to the writer of Proverbs. A slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. He who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. And so immediately, and earlier in the first 9 chapters also, this question of working hard, being diligent, not being a sluggard, and not sleeping, but rising early and working is a big part of what a boy needs to learn, and something that we should be modeling for them and be preparing them for. They should be hearing from us that that's what their life is about. But a big part of this is the third thing of what it means to be a boy, not just that they use their strength for others, that they work hard, but also that they learn to take responsibility. Being a man and of what a boy is growing into, what these future men are going to be, is that they need to learn to take responsibility for things, which is a big part that men in our culture don't understand. That's part of what it means to be a man. Men are afraid of responsibility. They don't want to be held responsible for things. And that's why men, they don't want to get married. They don't want to have families. They don't want to be tied down. They don't want to make commitments. Is because they don't want to be responsible for things. And yet the world is hungry for men that will take responsibility. And I think that we give this partly by giving our children a vision of and telling our boys what their life is going to be like in the future. But a big part of taking responsibility is something, of course, that we see modeled by the Lord Jesus. A big part of the gospel is that Jesus is taking responsibility for the church. And all his people, humanity, is stuck in sin. And Jesus does not stay distant and avoid the mess and the problems, but he walks right into it. And he actually takes the sin upon himself. He takes responsibility for other people's sin and owns it and deals with it as their representative. And that's what a boy is called to do with his life. And a big part of that is going to be is that as he grows up, as there's conflicts, as there's problems, as there's things that he's afraid of in his family, things that need resolution, things that need care for, that he might not know how to handle, that he walks into those things and takes responsibility and says, I'm going to act. I'm not going to avoid this. And the way, of course, that our boys learn that is that it's modeled by their fathers. That they see their fathers, that when there's conflict in the home, whether it's with discipline, whether it's the convictions of the house of how a family is run, that they see their fathers engaged and involved and not checking out. And so this modeling is, of course, essential for boys. That they see their fathers, and of course relationally involved as well, that they see their fathers and their mothers giving their heart to their children. So when our boys see us giving our hearts to them, opening our hearts to them, welcoming them into our hearts, and even confessing our own sin and being straight with them, and seeing us repenting and growing and taking our faith seriously, all of these things are modeling for our kids that they are boys, that they will grow up and be boys that will take responsibility for their own families and take responsibility in the church. So a few thoughts about raising boys that I think should be things that they hear over and over as they're growing up, that they use their strengths for the good of others, that they work hard, and that they take responsibility.